So it's been more than a month, if you can believe it, since Donald Trump announced his sweeping and pretty ridiculous tariffs. But Mr. Art of the Deal, as he calls himself, has not yet struck a single trade deal, not a single one, with any single country. So it's been more than a month, if you can believe it, since Donald Trump announced his sweeping and pretty ridiculous tariffs. But Mr. Art of the Deal, as he calls himself, has not yet struck a single trade deal, not a single one, with any single country. So it's been...
Got to talk about Jen Psaki owning herself, trolling herself, lampooning herself. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Chris Highland Show. What a great opening she gave us. That was last night. That was Jen Psaki signing on her program last night, trying to troll President Trump, who hasn't signed a trade deal yet. It's been literally a month since Liberation Day. These trade deals could take years. In fact, we haven't had a trade deal with the UK in years. And true to form, Donald Trump waits for Jen Psaki. I don't think he was waiting for Jen Psaki, but as soon as she said this, Donald Trump announces the first in a series of dominoes to fall. Today, on a joint call with Keir Starmer, they announced the UK trade deal is done. They have negotiated it. They will put the finishing touches on it, but all of the major tenets are agreed to. We're going to get into it. We're going to listen to President Trump's announcement. We're going to talk about a couple of the uber important salient facts, but this is phenomenal news. So welcome into the Chris Highland Show. So glad you are here. Resnap in the house. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate you rolling up. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this content, please share it with everybody that you know. Let's get right into it as we have this phenomenal news today. UK trade deal. Here we go.
This morning, I'm thrilled to announce that we have reached a breakthrough trade deal with the United Kingdom. Incredible country. Today is a victory day for World War II. We won the war together exactly 80 years ago, so there could be no more perfect this historic agreement, and it's beautiful weather. I will tell you that, Keir, beautiful weather. It's so perfect outside. But it's really, in particular, the agreement with one of our closest and most cherished allies. And we're so happy that that's the way it worked out. I want to thank Prime Minister Starmer and his very talented team for their outstanding work and partnership. Today's agreement with the UK is the first in a series of agreements on trade that my administration has been negotiating over the past 4 weeks. With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade. The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers. And our Secretary, as you know, of Agriculture is here. Brooke, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, sir.
You'll let the farmers know. In addition, the UK will reduce or eliminate numerous non-tariff barriers that unfairly discriminated against American products, but this is now turning out, I think, really to be a great deal for both countries, because it'll be really great for the UK also. So they're opening up the country. Their country's a little closed, and we appreciate that. They'll also be fast-tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, and there won't be any red tape. Things are going to move very quickly both ways. The final details are being written up in the coming weeks. We'll have it all very conclusive, but the actual deal is a very conclusive one. We think just about everything's been approved.
Excellent news. And is it poetic irony, or is it just me that not only do they announce this on VE Day, May the 8th, the day that they basically 80 years ago announced victory in Europe, and as Keir Starmer noted in his little part of the press conference, it's almost to the hour. But is it also poetic irony that essentially the country that was demanding that the American colonists bend the knee to the King of England way back when, is the first country to essentially bend the knee to Trump in this entire trade war? Is it? I mean, it could just be a complete randomness, but I love the fact that we now have a deal with the UK. And remember that they've been talking about a trade deal, a bilateral trade deal with the United Kingdom ever since Brexit, which was what, 6 years ago or more? Ever since Brexit, they have been talking about the fact that the key to Brexit, the key to the UK leaving the European Union economically for them, was a true trilateral close partnership with the United States in trade that would allow the UK to prosper outside of the European Union. And nobody could get it done. No president, no trade delegation. And here you've got President Trump getting this deal done in 4 weeks. And it didn't happen on its own. It happened not only just because of President Trump, we're going to get into that because Lubnik had some things to say. It happened because of, not in spite of, because of Jen Psaki, Trump's trade war, because of Trump's tariffs, because of the reciprocal tariffs that would have driven tariffs in the UK up into the 20, 30% range, that got everyone to the table. Now, let's listen to Ludnick as he talks specifically about Trump and this trade deal. Here we go.
I have the best deal maker to my left, and if you don't think that we take advantage of him calling the prime minister and getting that deal done, you don't understand who's the president of the United States. So he's the closer. He gets deals done that we could never get done because he understands business, he understands deals, and that's why we're here today.
And he's absolutely right. And when you think about the details, some of the details of this deal opens up the UK markets to American beef, American meat products, the stuff that our farmers produce and our ranchers. Now, there are still some things in place from the UK that are based on their laws, things that cannot exist in the UK, such as hormone-treated beef, chlorine-treated chicken. But according to Trump, obviously this is not a huge issue because RFK is already working on the other side in HHS to essentially get rid of all that, to outlaw the hormones and the chlorine chicken and all that nonsense. So that won't be an issue moving forward. At the same time, it opens up some of the UK market to American auto manufacturers, while at the same time protecting UK manufacturers, automobile manufacturers, but only for a certain amount of cars. I believe it's the first 100,000 cars from the UK are tariff-free. After that, they're subject to the 25% car tariff. But the first 100,000 are free, which protects evidently about 10,000 jobs in the UK. So Starmer got a victory, Trump got a victory, but I want to talk about, I think, the most important salient point of this deal. The fact is, A, it's the first deal to fall. It's the first one. It's the first domino. And it addressed 3, I think, major points that are going to form the basis for a lot more of these trade deals moving forward. And I think these are 3, pins in the map, 3, foundational points, 3 posts that are extremely important. One, it obviously got rid of any reciprocal tariffs. So now we have a free trade environment with the UK. It addressed inequities in non-tariff barriers. We just talked about opening up, ag products in the UK, opening up cars in the UK, and some of those things. So he was able to get rid of non-law-based trade barriers. And the third point that I think is extremely important, the 10% buying club tariff or selling club, whatever you want to call it, is in place. That was never touched. That was not even a negotiating item to listen to everybody talk. 10%, if you want to access the US market, everyone will pay a 10% tariff or you'll make your product in the US. That's non-negotiable. And guess what? The UK did not overcome that, despite their most favored nation status with us, despite our close relationship, despite our national security ties, the 10% selling into our market tariff still applies. Now, anything that they make in the US, tariff-free. I think that is going to be a linchpin moving forward with every single other trade deal. We will get to fair trade across the board, but you're going to pay to access the largest consumer market on the planet. I think this is a phenomenal deal. From what I've seen of it, from the details I understand, this is a great deal for both the US and the UK. It forms the first domino to fall in probably what it's going to be a series of 15 or 20 trade deals over the next month to 3 months. And it effectively now starts building the box that China is in. And we're going to get into that. But first, on the US front, in light of this trade deal, remember all the Democrats screaming and crying about the markets. Oh my gosh, Trump is evaporating wealth. Well, here we go. The Dow has jumped 500 points as Trump announces the UK trade deal. So we're going to have, is it going to be 500 points every time we announce a trade deal? Probably not. There'll be a law of diminishing returns. But think about it. It jumps 500 now, 400 the next time, 300 the next time. It's going to jump 4,500 points over these trade deals. So Trump has not evaporated any wealth. It was all paper losses. The only way you lost is if you sold in the middle of the downturn. Anybody who's holding a 401k, nobody went out and liquidated their 401k. It's all gaslighting nonsense from the Democrats, but the market is already reacting. It's already up. Trump is reorienting global trade, global economy, and it's fantastic. Now, I want to get into a little bit because Sebastian Gorka was on Wake Up America, and he was talking about the fact that this is just the first domino. Here we go.
To the president and senior director for counterterrorism, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Good morning, sir, my friend. So as you and I have discussed for years, the president's use of economic and trade as a weapon and a diplomatic tool should be the Trump doctrine. This is a big deal for Europe, America, and really the rest of the world.
It is the quintessence of the art of the deal. Good morning, Mark. I literally, as I was walking up to the Newsmax camera here, I bumped into Brooke Rawlings getting out of her government vehicle. She's going to be part of this announcement this morning. It's big. It's historic. America is no longer to be exploited by those who are gaming the global system. We're not going to be the piggy bank to those who are playing fast and loose with the rules of international trade. It's a big day here in the White House, as it has been for the last, whatever it is, 110 days. Just trying to keep up with the president is hard enough, but it's America first, especially this morning, Mark.
Hey, Seb, can you give us any kind of preview of anything that's in this deal?
If I would, I don't think I'd have my job by this afternoon. So the fact that Brooke Rawlings she canceled. She was on her way to engagement somewhere else in the United States yesterday evening when she was told 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, be here. So I think you can guess some aspects of the deal. You can tell by my deep Alabamian accent that I'm super excited about this one, given where I was born. Special relationships and everything else. The president has hinted enough, but let's just say that this is the beginning of a tsunami of similar announcements that are just going to make the economy of the first Trump administration, which was the biggest the world had ever seen, look small by comparison. So this is really a historic day here at the White House.
Yeah, absolutely. The beginning of a tsunami of trade deals. I love what he said. It's going to make the first Trump economy look small because that economy was still within the globalist economic framework where the U.S. was getting ripped off day in and day out, $1 trillion a year. That is over. Now, every country in the world is going to pay for the privilege of selling to Americans. We are 39% of global consumption. We are the customer. We are the global customer. We have the global gold. We will now make the global rules, something we should have been doing for the last 5 decades. But Trump is doing it. And this is the first domino in a tsunami of dominoes to fall. And I love the fact, like I said, I think it's uber important, the 10% buying club tariff is in place, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere for any country. Or you can make your product in the US. And hence, we've got $7 trillion of investment already committed for building factories in the US. This is absolutely amazing. Now, what this means is that this is essentially the first brick, the first official brick in a wall that is going to box China in and force them into a deal. And things are not going well in China. I want to dive into that because I think that's the other part of this is now forcing the world is aligning with the US and against essentially by default against China. Check out Scott Bessent on Fox Business.
Of weeks, a couple of months. What's your timing, Mr. Secretary?
Well, again, Maria, as I said, the Chinese need to de-escalate these high tariffs because there is the equivalent of an embargo, and the Chinese business model is built on selling cheap goods to the U.S. They sell us about 5 times more than we sell them. So, their factories are closing down as we speak. We're going into the holiday season. Orders are placed for that now. So if those orders aren't placed, it could be devastating for the Chinese.
Absolutely. He's 100% right. We are the customer. China is the supplier. We make the rules. If we don't buy, they can't make anything. And right now, the tariffs are making it so that no one is buying in America. And he's also right. If anybody understands the time frames, the time lags involved, my wife is sold on Amazon. She has sourced material overseas. And in order to get stuff in stores, now, obviously, if it's not Amazon, things can move faster because they have their own processes. But in order to get stuff here in the US through customs, ready to go on store shelves or in a virtual store, you have to start making with 4, 6, 8 week manufacturing lead times, with shipping lead times. You've got to start ordering now. And so if you don't order it now, it's not going to be there for Christmas. And we realize that the October to December timeframe, most retailers do more than 50% of their business. So this right now is the high time for Chinese manufacturers, and they're getting no orders. It is an absolute ugly bloodbath over there. So check this out, because Scott Bessent is right. This is bad news for China. And it's only going to get worse. All right, here we go.
For decades, the Chinese economy ran on borrowed money, borrowed demand, and borrowed time. Now, that debt is due, baby. Last year, Fitch Ratings downgraded China's debt outlook and warned that the country's massive borrowing could cause serious problems. Now, the government debt, both central and local, is expected to rise to about 61% of GDP in 2024 to 68.3% in 2025. And then to 74.2% by 2026. That would push China's debt levels higher than what they were after the 2009 global financial crisis. But this time, the economy isn't growing fast enough to handle it. Clearly, China is facing the worst economic and social crisis in years. Even after China allowed a record 10 trillion yuan in new bonds to cover up hidden debt, Fitch warned it won't solve the root of the problem. Beijing is running out of easy fixes. They lowered taxes, spent heavily on infrastructure, and launched a huge stimulus plan to try to meet a 5% growth goal. But when public confidence is gone, all that spending barely moves the needle. And with more people protesting, more mortgages unpaid, and more savings frozen, the pressure is only building. The protests are only going to get worse. And if history is anything to go by, we can only hope it doesn't end with tanks in the streets.
Exactly. So realize what has been building the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy was essentially built on 2 major platforms. One was the export economy. They wanted to become the manufacturer for the world. And what that really means is they wanted to become the manufacturer for the US. But a lot of their stuff we wouldn't take. Obviously, Huawei has already been pushed out a lot of the American market. So some of the electronics and some of the other things the US wasn't taking. But all of the cheaper stuff, absolutely. Metal products, things like that, yes. There was a lot of that flowing into the United States. But there was also a lot of that flowing around the world. But the other thing that was driving their 5% GDP growth and allowing them to continually employ their billion plus people, even though they have an aging population, was constant real estate development. The problem is they weren't developing real estate that anybody was demanding. People were buying based on the fact that in China, socioeconomically and based on their culture, a house was everything. It was your status. It's what made you as a man capable of raising a family and getting a wife and those sorts of things. So everybody put their money not in stocks and bonds like we do in America, in lots of diversified investments. No, everything was in their home. And people were buying investment properties and other things. Well, all that has come crashing down because China was building ghost cities, because the revenue that townships, for lack of a better word, cities, municipalities, local governments made was based on real estate development. They were developing anything. They were leasing land. They were selling land. They were doing it to maintain their own coffers. And people were building because they were getting money from the government and from cheap loans, or government-backed loans. So everybody was building, but nobody was buying. And when they did buy, nobody was renting. There wasn't demand. Hence, you've got ghost cities. Now you've got people who cannot pay the mortgages on these properties, who are defaulting on the mortgages, which the whole thing is becoming a giant, avalanche of issues. And so they are not going to even come close to making 5% GDP. And now you've got the Trump tariffs, which are crashing the other pedestal of that economy, the export economy, because we are the global consumer. They cannot make up 15% production around the world. They can't do it because we're 39% of global consumption. And they've also got, because people want to buddy up to Trump, you've got other nations imposing tariffs, essentially embargoing China, India, Vietnam. The European Union announced 67% tariffs. China's economy is faltering, and it is leading to major societal unrest. As we can see here, riots and protests have erupted all over China. Workers are not getting paid, factories are closing, back pay protests. So, you can see it. It is an issue. It is a major problem for Xi Jinping. He is going to have to come to the table. But Trump is maintaining a hard line because they're not going to let him come to the table until everything is on the table to negotiate. Their unfair trade practices, litigation in their courts, IP issues, theft, all of those things are going to have to be negotiated and worked out. That's going to be a pretty big row to hoe. But in the meantime, Trump is going to keep closing trade deals, keep driving up our markets, keep expanding the U.S. economy. This economy, I believe, and I said this a month ago during Liberation Day, I said, I believe Trump is pulling back the drawstring on this economy. He is pulling back the spring. And this thing is getting ready. It's going to hit a critical mass of trade deals, of free trade, of import duties coming in with the 10% tariff. This thing is going to take off like a shot. As soon as some of these factories start get going, everybody's going to start hiring again. We're going to have labor shortages, rising wages, falling prices in terms of energy, in terms of food. Everything driven by energy and logistics is going to come down. And then you're going to see lowered rates from the Fed. This is going to absolutely turbocharge the American economy. And it's happening now. It's happening faster even than I thought. I was hoping we get a lot of stuff done, but by July. The fact that it's happening now is going to prime the pump for the supply side stimulus, which the House and the Senate have to pass with reconciliation, and the Trump tax cuts. To that be done, that could be the final cherry on top on July 4th. And this thing will be massive. And Trump will have successfully realigned global trade in a record time. And that'll set us up for awesome midterms. Fantastic stuff. Thanks so much. Hey, Lynn Sanger in the house. Thanks so much. Really appreciate you being here. Everybody, Capo is in the house. Boom. What I miss, all sorts of stuff, but you'll have to watch the recording. So now I got one other story I want to get to today because it is a major breaking story, and that is the Catholics of the world have a new pope. Now, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? We're going to investigate a little bit of that. I've got some mixed emotions on this. I've got some mixed information on this. We're going to start with Charlie Kirk. We're going to jump into Cernovich, and finally, we've got a Vatican insider who might sum this all up. But bluff, bottom line up front, it's not looking real good. But as we get into this, please, we got a bunch of people watching. Please smash that like button for me. Like, comment, and subscribe. Would love to hear your comments. Let us know how we're doing. Also, share the Chris Highland Show with everybody that you know. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. All right. So they voted. They have a new pope, and that new pope is an American. Go figure. The first American pope in the Vatican's history. So for 2,000 years, no American has ever been pope until now. He was the former, I believe, archbishop in Chicago and a cardinal. So now he is the new pope. He has taken the name Pope Leo. His name is Robert Prevost, I believe. But we're going to get into Charlie Kirk's talking about him. He's evidently a registered Republican, but don't let that fool you. Let's dive right in.
Hey everybody, there is a new pope, and the pope is from Chicago. What do we actually know about this new pope? Well, the pope is from Chicago. I am as well. He served in Peru, but I'm not Catholic, by the way. It still matters who the pope is. He is a registered Republican and voted in Republican primaries and ran a pro-life group at Villanova University, so that's a good sign. Also has some, let's just say, not so great tweets about having some willingness for open borders. We'll see kind of how he is on that. Also some George Floyd stuff that I'm not too crazy about. But overall, it seems like he's a pro-life warrior. There's a lot yet to learn about this pope. I hope that he will be a strong advocate for strong borders and for sovereignty. The first ever American pope. You gotta wonder, why is it that they picked an American pope? Could be a coincidence, could be nothing, or is it they want a voice that is also for the opening of American borders while we have President Trump? Who knows? Let's see. But by the way, borders are biblical. Close your borders. Love your people. You should, of course, love everyone. The best way to love them is to have them make their countries great. And our God is a God of order, a God of structure, and not want millions of people who we do not know coming into our country in the dilution of sovereignty. So there's a new pope. A lot more to learn about it, and congratulations to all Catholics who are excited about it. Some people are saying he's super liberal. We know he was a registered Republican. Time will tell.
Unfortunately, he does appear to be super liberal, maybe on everything but one issue. He did run a pro-life group, and hopefully he maintains that pro-life stance moving forward, and hopefully that bleeds over into the whole LGBTQ issue. But in talking to a lot of people and in looking at this, he appears to be absolutely, whether he's, even if he is a registered Republican, he appears to be absolutely anti-Trump, pro-open borders. So according to Cernovich, sorry, Catholics, the new Pope is an open borders globalist. He will be pushing for abortion soon. We'll see. Have that be the one pot on his side. We'll see. But checking out his X account to my colleagues. So here he is. Robert Prevost is the new Pope Leo. Your cowardice to act cannot be whitewashed by your thoughts and prayers. This was from Chris Murphy. I believe this was talking about George Floyd. So here he is talking, trolling Trump and Bukele and the immigration issue. Here this is again. So unfortunately, he very much looks like an open borders advocate. Whether he is pro-life will remain to be seen, truly pro-life, whether he's willing to stand up for it, whether he is willing to maintain the church's 2,000-year stance on LGBTQ and gay marriage and all of that remains to be seen. I haven't seen anything on that. But I did want to jump into, there is a Vatican insider, Leo Zagami, and he, according to him, this new pope is just simply a continuation of the globalist takeover of the Catholic Church, which is very sad if this is in fact true. So we're going to dive into that. So let's dive into Leo Zagami. Because if that's the case, then it's very, very sad. Now, this is my personal opinion just on the surface, obviously this only happened a couple hours ago, is it very much looks like part of the reason he did get elected might be his anti-Trump stance. The fact that he's an American might be a political move on the part of the Vatican, thinking that they can use an American to push back against Trump and his anti-globalist, nationalist, MAGA agenda, America First agenda. I don't know, but that's what it looks like on its face. But let's check out Leo Zagami. And like Charlie Kirk, I am also an evangelical, so I'm not a Catholic. So the new Pope means nothing to me in terms of an authority issue. But it is very important who the Pope is, because how go the Catholics in the world tends to dictate a lot how the world goes. It was Pope John Paul in the era of the end of the Soviet Union and Glasnost and everything happening in Poland that helped bring about the end of communist Russia. If it had been someone like Pope Francis, we would still have the Soviet Union. So it is very important for us as a geopolitical perspective. And I want my Catholic friends and neighbors to hear the gospel, and that is harder and harder when the Pope is essentially anti-gospel, and that's what we don't want. All right, so let's dive into Leo Zagami.
Is a sign by the cardinals that rather than choosing something from Asia or from Africa, they wanted to actually insidiously nominate and elevate to the pontificate somebody who is American. It's the first time in history. But Robert Francis Prevost is no friend of Donald J. Trump. He is, of course, somebody who comes from Chicago, but also with a vast history in South America that connects him to the infamous Jesuit order. And he is from an order himself, the Augustinians, who have worked hand in hand with Jesuits on the control of the educational establishment. Today, if you think about the main issues Trump is trying to fight, immigration policies, well, in this regard, he will have to fight against this Pope because he's very much a supporter of what the Democrats were doing, open borders and all the rest. It's gonna be a war against Trump waged by the church every day, in which we will hear, of course, from this Pope, what you might hear from the Democratic Party, which has demonstrated in the last few years to be the political branch of the Vatican Jesuit-led New World Order here in the United States. So it's not a good day. Some Americans might perceive it as a good day. For those who were hoping in a traditional Pope, and somebody who will support also a return to the Latin Mass, this will be, of course, a disappointment because this Pope has no intention in going back, but rather in moving forward.
Is he Francis light, or is he as bad as Francis?
He's worse than Francis.
Wow. Okay. So, unfortunately, this does not look good for Catholics around the world, at least not those who are very interested in a return to traditional Christianity, to Orthodox Christianity, because Pope Francis was anything but Orthodox Christianity. He was the exact opposite in terms of his open border stance, his LGBTQ stance, all of that. And this looks like, according to this particular insider, a continuation and an acceleration of those policies. We'll keep an eye on this. It remains to be seen. Absolutely, Lynn. And this looks like, according to Leo, he was selected in order to wage war against Trump, against America first. If he is no friend of Donald Trump, then he is no friend of America, unfortunately. So let's we're going to reserve judgment. We'll see what he actually does. But unfortunately, I'm not too cheerful. I'm not too hopeful on this one, but we'll see, because God can do anything. God can change any heart, and we'll see, because God holds the heart of the king in his hand and he turns it wherever he wants. We will see what happens with this. I really appreciate everybody rolling up on this great news Thursday, a UK trade deal. The market is up. The Trump economy is beginning to roll. Thanks so much for being here. Please Like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Chris Highland show with everybody that you know. Res Knapp, you're a recovering Catholic. Fantastic. I'm a recovering Lutheran. But really appreciate everybody being here. You guys are awesome. Remember that God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Till I catch you next time. Have a good one.